Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we continuing to look at the MOB, the 2013 Management of Business Unit 1, Paper 2 for CAPE. And so we looked at question 3 last time, and so we're going to look at question 4 today. And so question 4, ChemK company is located in a Caribbean island and is involved in the manufacturing of hazardous chemicals. The CEO has decided to put together a team of 3 managers and other staff to plan for the safety of the company in the event of a natural disaster in the country. And so question 4a asks, differentiate between a team and a group. And so sometimes they are used interchangeably, but there are some differences, right? And so we have some key differences here. No definition here. A group is an assemblage of persons who work, interact, and cooperate with one another in achieving a common goal in a specified time. A team, a group of people who are joined for achieving a common goal within a stipulated period of time, having collective accountability. Now, this is a key difference between those two words. Collective accountability. Now, if a team fails, the accountability lies with all of its members. But a group, on the other hand, even though it's a group, you are still an individual within that group. So you're not looked at as a cohesive unit. A group is still a bunch of individuals, whereas a team is seen as just one. You know, a sports team, just one. And so there's collective accountability. If a team loses, you don't blame nobody. You say the team lost, we lost as a team. But when you come on a group now, there's still individual responsibility, individual accountability. So if you fail to do something in a group, then it's on you. And so that's one of the key differences between the group and the team. And let's look at some others. There's only one head in a group. A team can have more than one head. Good. The group members do not share responsibility, but the members of a team share responsibility, as I just outlined. So the group, they do not share responsibility. Everybody is responsible for their part, whereas a team, everybody share responsibility. So if one person fail, all fail. And so that's one key distinction right there. A group focuses on achieving an individual goal, on individual goals. Conversely, a team member focuses on achieving the team's goal. And so again, the same thing about responsibility and accountability. In a group, the individuals are focused on achieving their part of the assignment, their part of the objective, their part of the goal. Whereas for the team, everybody is about the team effort, doing it together, achieving it together. Next key distinction right there. The group produces individual work products, as opposed to a team who produces collective work products. Again, you see the whole concept coming out with team versus group. The process of a group is to discuss the problem, then decide and finally delegate the task to individual members. On the other hand, a team discusses the problem, then decides the way of solving it, and finally do it collectively. That's the key distinction right there. Group members are independent. Unlike a group, the team members are interdependent. And so you see some key differences, so you can differentiate between a team and a group for your nice 3 marks right there. And then the other question, B. Outline 5 stages in the development of a group. 5 stages in the development of a group. And this one is somewhat simple because of the fact that it rhymes. Most of this stuff rhymes. You can even make a song out of it. So we have them right here. Forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. Those are the 5 stages of team development. So you have the forming, the storming, the norming, the performing, and the adjourning. And so let's look at them individually. So forming, self-explanatory. At this stage, members are just getting to know each other. They are often uncertain about the purpose, structure, and leadership of the group. Members may be timid as they seek to find out what behavior is acceptable or not acceptable. So you're just getting to know each other. The group is forming, the team is forming. So you're just getting to know each other. You're feeling out everybody. So you know, if you can make a joke about this person or not, what kind of things to say, that kind of thing. So you feel it's a feeling out process, the forming part. And then you have the storming. Again, pretty much self-explanatory. Storming. As members start to share ideas and become more acquainted with each other, intra-team conflict and disagreements may develop. So the storming part. They express the individuality and resist the pressure and influence of the remaining team members. So we have some friction happening now. So everybody stop, walking on eggshells around each other. Everybody stop trying to feel to each other. Now everybody's true selves coming out, and so of course personalities are going to clash. Are they going to have some disagreements, some conflict, that kind of thing within the team? And so that's the storming part of it. So you have the storming, the farming, storming, now the norming. Again, normalizing. We're normalizing the group, normalizing the team. As the team members get to know even more about each other, the conflicts and disagreements start to subside, reduce. In this stage, members start developing good relationships and cohesion. The purpose of the team is now clear and each member knows the accepted behavior. So we're normalizing the group, everybody getting to know each other, you know what to say, what not to say, that kind of thing. And so you normalize now, so time to get down to brass tacks. And so you have to perform the task that you are pulled together for. And so performing, the focus on the team is now getting the job done and achieving its objective. The method of working is established and each member can now make the contribution to the task. This is the final stage for permanent teams. But if it's not permanent, it's the next step, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's not permanent, there's a next step, the adjourning. So at this stage, a team that has a temporary wrap up their activities and prepare for disbandment. The task would have been performed and the team members now look toward separation. So it's adjourned, it's done, and so they go their way. And so right there, simple as that. 10 marks, you outline the 5 stages in the development of a group. 2 marks each, 10 marks, bada bing, bada boom, they're done. Right? And so that's it. Then we have number 4C. Discuss 3 characteristics that the team selected must display in order to carry out its task effectively. Again, characteristics of a team. Like this textbook, I mean, the thing about this question is to 2013, and so I think this is around the same time the book was fresh and things, so it almost parity, emulate each other. So that's why it's so simple to me. So characteristics of an effective team. You have a lot to choose from. Commitment. And so what they say here, discuss. So commitment. You know what commitment means? You know to write about commitment. It's about being on board, sticking to the task, and not finding excuses, being responsible, that kind of stuff. So it's almost certain that many people will not feel comfortable or perform properly if they are in a place where they do not want to be. So you gotta make sure you're there 100% and committed to the task. You can't be half-hearted, right? You can't come half-hearted and expect to be an effective team. If everybody half-heartedly discuss the problem and carry out the problem, if you try to fix the problem, you're not going to reach an effective solution. So you have to be there fully. So a lot of y'all had group work and you know how this goes. When somebody's not committed, they're on their phone. When time comes to dig down, things like that, and so things get past them, their contribution is not of a quality nature, and so you get frustrated. So they say some students may agree that they really would rather be in a university or working, and so they are not very committed to school. The same is true for teams. If the members are not committed to the team and the activities that will be undertaken, then not much will be accomplished. In order for a team to be effective, management of the firm has to ensure that the people being chosen to be part of the team are committed. So commitment is a key characteristic. It must be commitment. And of course, participation. Nobody likes a free rider. We have all been in group work where we have somebody just hanging on and getting the grades. And you're not happy about that. Right? So that even on that level, school level, there's conflict right there. Because some people doing all the work and some just barely there. So the level of participation in the team is essential to the success. It is expected that the team members will be able to share their ideas, make comments, and suggestions. No member of the team should be prevented from participating in decision making. This therefore means that the team leader has to be democratic in his or her leadership approach. In any team, each person's idea of it should be valid as the other person's. There should not be any partiality or disregard. However, the level of participation necessary for effective decision may only may come only after the team has reached or surpassed the norming stage. Right? So you want everybody, you want all hands on deck. You want nobody just getting shut down, nobody just off doing their own thing. You want full maximum participation. Then of course, trust. This one is pretty self-explanatory. You have to be able to trust your team members, your group members, or else there will be conflict. Right? So that's a very important thing, trust. This characteristic is of the utmost importance, as almost nothing can be accomplished if team members keep looking over their shoulders. Trust is vital, as team members want to know that whatever it is said in the team will not be misconstrued because of one person's position. Each member should be genuine in their actions and should not be trying to put down another person. Where these actions are present, the team will not be able to build the type of trust needed to carry out the assigned task. So that is pretty much self-explanatory. Trust. Decisions by consensus. So nobody wants any authoritarian, any autocrats, no dictators in a team or group. You want everybody to have some say, and you want everybody to have full buy-in. So decisions made by, if everybody is to accept the decisions made by the team, you have to have a say in the decision-making process. You can't just come dictate to me. Right? Because that would be a problem. You're going to have conflicts because you might not agree, but the person you want to hear because they're the leader, and so you have issues right there. Flexibility. We are living in a world in which constantly changing, and these changes usually affect business organization. To this end, team members must be aware of the possible changes that might occur and be ready to adapt to the new situation. An effective team is one that is flexible enough to reduce considerably the time it takes to adjust to or overcome unforeseen circumstances. So flexibility. Encouragement. As the team norms, remember the stage, members usually develop a sense of camaraderie. This relationship is important, especially when a member may be losing focus on the task ahead or is just in need of encouragement. The leader of the team should possess the requisite skills to motivate and inspire his or her fellow team members to achieve the stated objectives. So you should be encouraging and not talk down to people, not condescend to people, not break people's spirit and things like that. You have to uplift, raise up the group as a leader, especially. Support and growth. This characteristic is connected to the previous one, in that the level of support needed in the team will come only after a close relationship is developed among the members. Team members will not only encourage each other, but will also lend their support where needed. Over time, the team should be able to mold each member, bringing them to the point where there is personal growth. An effective team is one that supports its members and ensures that they grow from the experience they garnered while working in the team. And of course, I think this is one of the most important ones. Next to trust, this is one of the most important ones, synergy. You, the team members, the group members, they have to be in a synergistic relationship. Everybody playing off each other, working off each other. My strengths would support your weaknesses, and those kind of things. So this characteristic is based on the notion that when individuals work together, the output will be greater than the sum of the outputs of the individual people. In other words, if we should add the output of each person who worked on a project individually, the total would be less than if they had worked together on a project. Hence the notion that working in a group produces more results. This is very important characteristic of effective teams, as I said before. As individuals in the firm come together to achieve a common goal, the end result should be indicative of the benefit of doing so. The individual achievement and ability has to be transcended into the group effort. And so synergy is all about working together, coming together, gelling, right? You working with each other, you backing up each other. The overall product should be better than if you did it individually. That's what they're saying here in the book. So they're saying that the outcome should be one of synergistic. And so therefore, you bring out the best out of me, I bring out the best out of you, because we're working together, we're gelling, and so therefore the overall output would be greater than the sum of its parts. So maybe if I'm in a group if I'm by myself, my output level might be just me. because nobody did to motivate me. I'm not feeding off of anybody else. But if you're a group setting and you're feeding off of the energy of each other, backing up each other, that kind of thing, then you would bring out the best out of me, I the best out of you, and so at the end of the day, the output would be greater than its sum of its parts. And so simple as that. You take any three and you discuss them and you get your full 12 marks. So just like that, we knock off number 4 for the Mayjune 2013 Cape Unit 1 Paper 2 for MOB, right? Management of Business. So that's number 4. And so that's it for this video. You know what to do now. Hit the like buttons, as they say. Smash that like button. Like the video, of course. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe. Share. All the good stuff. Exams coming up. Help each other to achieve the best that each other and that you all can. All right. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.